so much, Shannon and Bar. I'm so excited to have you here on board. I've been following you for years, and I'm super passionate about education. And I can tell from what you do that you are passionate for what you do. It is my honor to actually have you collaborate with me for this cause, because um, using our time for free to share with the world about good practices is what it takes for education to start to change little by little. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce you both. Shannon Merenstein and Bar Rucci are both founders of the Creativity Project, which I will add the link in the chat in a little bit. And this is an amazing project that promotes art and creativity overall, because it's more than art what you do. You do 21st century skills all over, and that's what we will be talking about today. Shannon, you live in Pittsburgh, right?
Mhm.
And Bar of Connecticut, right?
I live in Connecticut, yes. We're in the middle of
Connecticut.
a nor'easter right now.
Connecticut.
So a lot of rain and wind outside right now.
So thank you so much for joining me. I would love to know, before we start, I want to know why. Why did you start the Creativity Project? I was reading a little bit about it yesterday on the website. How did you two cross paths? Because I know that Shannon, you also work for the Eric Carle Museum in collaboration. And I actually have to tell you that I found you initially. This is how I found you, because my daughter Elena, she's passionate about art, and I bought your books. And that's how I found you. And then I saw you at, I believe, Fairy Dust Teaching Summit. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is the same people that I've been following along. And then I started seeing you all over. And I'm like, this is no coincidence. So that's how I found you. I bought your books and I fell in love with what you did. And that's my story with you. I would love to hear the why behind the Creativity Project.
Sure. I'll kick us off, and then Bar, you can add anything I miss. But Bar and I have been working together for a long time. Bar is the founder also of Art Bar blog, and as I was working in my studio here in Pittsburgh with children, Bar invited me to share some of the ideas that I've tried out and collected along the way on her blog. And then in 2020, just as COVID was hitting, Bar and I were at the beginning of a kind of conversation about what a deeper collaboration could look like. And so we started the Creativity Project just in the first weeks of the pandemic to help families who were all of a sudden stuck at home with their children find moments of creativity and connection through process, art, and play. And that was really well received. And we got lots of great feedback about these mini guides that we were creating around those topics. And we decided to release a monthly art and play guide. And we did that for 3 seasons. So we released 36 art and play curriculum guides that are available on our website. And now we have really transitioned and kind of evolved the Creativity Project to support educators in their classrooms who are trying to prioritize creativity and play. And we are doing that by helping them become confident using open-ended materials and offering them in a way that really promotes agency and a sense of belonging in the classroom. And we're both so happy to be joining you today.
Bar, would you like to add something else?
Yes, I mean, Shannon has covered a lot, but I think I wanted to go back to how we met. And, being on Instagram is really how I find a lot of like-minded people. And I had been following Shannon when she had her Hatch art studio. And I know we're going to talk about process art a lot today, but it really stood out to me the things that she was doing with the children in her studio. And she was really letting them sort of create their own experience with the materials and without kind of having a sample of what to do. And it was very open ended. And
Mhm.
you don't see that, you didn't at that time, maybe it was like 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, Shannon.
Mhm.
There wasn't as much as there is now about process art. But I reached out to her and, I said, would you want to write on my blog? And yes,
Mhm.
so we kind of struck up a friendship. And then we both were writing these books with Quarry, and they're kind of sister books. Mine's art workshop for
Mhm.
children. So it's kind of like a beginner doing process art, or a little bit open ended. And then hers is collage workshop with children. And so we just have been sort of on the same page and growing at the same time. And I, what I love about what we're doing is that, we are also learning as we go, and we are
Mhm.
also growing as we go. And our first 3 seasons, we kind of started with parents at home, like Shannon said, and we have kind of come full circle to what we wanted to do originally, which was really try to get more creativity,
Mhm.
open-ended art and play into the classroom. And so Shannon and I have involved too. And now in our Materials Matter course, we're really even more open ended. And we're noticing how just giving children materials and letting them have the freedom to choose and move and do what they want really brings out their imagination and creativity. So it's been a journey for us, and it's been really exciting to be at this moment right now. So
Well, I want to tell you that I really enjoy your content. I think that your content is valuable, mostly because I can see that it comes from your heart. It's something that you really spend time developing and creating. And on my end, I try to create as well in a different area, and I know the time that it takes. I know how much you have to put into something that might look simple, but actually simplicity is the hardest part. To make it simple, to make it easy to follow, to make it as simple that anyone could use your content. I was hesitant about getting the membership, which I'll talk at the end about the membership. I was hesitant about getting it, and I could not I could not stop myself. It was so inviting. All the posts, everything. It's like eating candy. Like I need this. I need this in my hands. I had that feeling of I need to play with this, and you inspire me. Mostly I got your membership to find different ways, because I find that Instagram itself is a great place for inspiration and to build upon your ideas, and to think, like, sometimes you come up with ideas and I'm like, how come they thought about that? I saw like the comb on that post that you did like a couple of days ago, and I'm like, how on earth? I never thought about that. It's something so simple that could expand into so much more. Um, in the Learning Garage, I teach children ages 4 through 10. So it's a play-based learning environment, multi-age group. I was telling Shannon that this space mainly it has children all ages, but it started because I started homeschooling my daughter because I could not send her off to the public school system. I wanted to protect her childhood. Wanted her to develop all this creativity, and I wanted to protect play overall. And that's how I went into this journey, and I started navigating it, and I actually rediscovered my passion for teaching. And I found out along my journey that I disliked teaching back in the day, because I only was a classroom teacher for 2 years. And then I moved into content development, and I did my major in giftedness at Columbia University. And I started doing something completely different because of the system. And now that I am teaching through play, and I am developing creativity myself and imagination and all these 21st century skills, I fell in love with what I actually do. So I am constantly reaching out to professionals that inspire me and that walk along my line of thinking, because that's very important. I think that we speak the same language, even though we concentrate in different areas. And when I see your work, all I can think of, and that's the main topic of conversation today, is about how, because these play talks are about how can we rethink education. And when I started rethinking education was when I became a mom, because it was my time to send my daughter to school, and I didn't like what was out there, and I started rethinking my own practices. And when I opened the garage, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna choose all the things that I love, and that's what I'm gonna do. And I used to write curriculum, so I did my own curriculum, I built my own things, and that's how it all started. But when it comes to art, and especially in young children, you tend to see a lot of art projects in the classroom. We're moving more into process art. But when we see older children, it goes away and it's one more subject. And you're lucky if you have an amazing teacher that promotes art in the art class, or even in high school and middle school, if it's an elective that you get to choose. And science proves that children need all these subjects that were meant to be as extras, like music, art, movement, for an optimal brain development, and that children benefit from having art and creativity overall every day in the same setting, not as a side class to take. I believe that art is a process that you live. In my learning space, all the art activities are not required. Only children that are attracted to them come to those activities, and they always do, because of course they want to touch, they want to feel, they want to use their senses. And I've also discovered that even my older kids who are 10 love to do things that people might think this is just meant to be for 4-year-olds. So can you explain with your words, how do you see process art, as I call it, art in the 21st century? How should we be learning art? How should art look like in the classroom to actually develop all these skills that people, not only children, need today to thrive? Collaboration, innovation, problem solving, decision making, all these skills happen when you play, and when you play art.
Yeah. And Bar and I have come to the realization that process art really is play. And so when you're thinking about all of those 21st century skills, collaboration and creativity and problem solving and innovation, all of that happens when children have the time and space they need to really explore the materials that are in front of them and to make choices and decisions about how they'll use them. And we are advocates for a similar kind of invitation to art making, where children decide whether they're interested or not in the materials. And you're right, in the experiences that Bar and I facilitate in our own areas and spaces, see that too, where children are really eager to approach the materials, and they can tell right away when they're in an environment that is respectful of their ideas and their ways of being with those materials. A lot of what I am inspired by is similar to you. When my first child was born, I became really interested in the way that he was just approaching the world around him, and it was so different than how I was as a child. He is, has lots of energy and excitement and enthusiasm for life, and I wanted to create experiences too that really honored that. And I think becoming a parent, you then see everybody else's child through that lens too, that this is somebody's precious love of their life, and deserving of these kinds of experiences that really meet them where they are. And so when we have a playful mindset about what materials can do and what they can become, and we kind of set things up and step back, that allows children to naturally develop that skill set and even a mindset around approaching other experiences with the same confidence and the same sort of curiosity about them. And I think that the more opportunities that children have to simply just access the materials as they wish and make new innovative combinations of those materials, really they become innovators. And that is how creativity is really not developed but sustained. I think that all young children come to these experiences with creativity, and it's really our job to help preserve that, and to continue to boost their confidence around what they are capable of.
Have you noticed, and this is something super personal that I've noticed in my, I've been doing this for I've been teaching for 23 years, but I think that I've been teaching only for 4, because like my real teaching is like what I've done over the last 4 years, which also happened over the pandemic. So I think it was a way of, it's a like rebirth for me, in every single angle that I see it, because um, I always tell my husband that I do this for my children, but deep inside, I also do it for myself because I love it. And I love the fact of being able to do so, and I enjoy it a lot. But I've seen, Shannon, adding to what you see, that I have this first generation of children that started the project that are still, because I started only with 8. And I've noticed how their creativity has grown dramatically since that first encounter. And I've also noticed when I get a new student, how limited it is at the beginning and how much it starts evolving over time. So, adding to what you're saying, just the fact of being able to present the materials at the beginning makes a whole sense, but you will see children evolving over time. And now I sometimes present materials, but now I see this generation of children creating their own ideas because they already know how to use their resources, which is where we want them to go, because it's about creativity overall. It's not always providing children, it's opening children's eyes to know that everything makes sense, that everything around them can be something, and that can be created into an amazing idea, because that's what really matters. And I also want people to think that art is math, because art is writing, because all the skills that we develop through art are needed to write and are needed to do math or science or social studies, because these are foundational skills that will make every person thrive in life. Can you tell me a little bit about, because I want to also encourage parents. I know that a lot of what I do, because I do a lot of presentations and invitations to learn and to play. I do playful learning. I do open-ended, because play, I always say that play evolves with age. And when children are younger, they're hooked into play a lot faster, and curiosity is different. And keeping that curiosity and wonder in older kids, it's harder, because you have to think more and become even more creative to kind of grab their attention. And when we start with young children, we always think that we have to be providing activities and that we have to have all these materials. And I always like to tell parents and educators that they need to think simple, because they see amazing content from people like us, which is great ideas, and they can by all means just replicate what we're sharing, because that's the reason why we're sharing it. It could be inspiration, but how can you start simple? How can you start simple with an art space in the classroom or at home? Because I don't want to limit this to only classrooms, because I think that art should be present in every single home. So, what would be your recommendation to start a space that promotes this creativity, this wonder? How could you begin to create this learning space?
Well, I wanted to go back quickly
Yes,
to
go ahead.
when you were talking about the older children and how much they, two things, they also love the open-ended
Mm-hmm.
opportunities to use materials in their own way without being told what to do, but also they can come into your space not knowing what to do,
Mm-hmm.
because they have been told what to do um,
Correct.
for so long, right? So we actually just wrote a blog post about that on our website. Like, what do I do with this? You know,
Mm-hmm.
they'll come in and say, what do I do with this?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that's why it's so important to start young with these open-ended experiences, and Shannon and I call them experiences all the time, because there is no end result or product, and it's
Mm-hmm.
really about the child's choice and how they want to use the materials. When they want to leave, they can abandon something, maybe they just are watching. um, but I think that, and then to answer your question, how do you begin, I would say it depends on your space and the space that you have. And so if you're talking about being at home or in the classroom, or if you're an art teacher, but let's just say you have a small space, I think what we write about a lot is having sort of like some shelves or an art cart, um, and having some simple materials. And I'll tell you that I do these kind of open-ended classes at or events at our local library once a month, and they're 2 hours, and families can come and go as they please. And there are so many older children that now just can't wait to come, because I have an entire table of just recyclables, along with connecting materials like tape, and wire and yarn. And sometimes I glue, but you don't need the glue because you can use the other connectors and it's not messy. Glue guns are something that they love, but also, they need some practice with it, and you might not have the space for that. But just a cart with some cardboard, some recyclables, some bottle tops and corks, and you can even some tapes and wires. You would be amazed at what all age children can come up with. It really will be something that they will want to work with. I think a lot of teachers are worried that they're going to have an idea and then the children aren't going to want to do it. But this isn't really about what you want or what you're thinking about, what an end product is going to be. It's just having those materials available for children to use in their own way. So that's a really simple way to begin, is just collect what you have and offer it on some shelves or in a cart.
And I
I
think you
think
could.
that the
Yeah.
cards that you post frequently are
Mhm.
very simple, and that's something very important. If we overdo the cards and we add too much, it's too much. If you keep it simple and start adding as the children know how to use the materials, they will be able to use it all. But if we, it all depends also on the age and how much we expose them, or if we want to change the material. I loved like something as simple. I think you did something with paper, or it was like I replicated that idea. Something with paper. It was paper that was stacked. I'm so visual that I remember that the paper was like that, and I used that idea for the Wonder Station, which is I have a station that's called the Wonder Station, in which I have activities that just spark wonder. There's no other purpose than, and it's not only art, it's whatever sparks curiosity and wonder, and it's about just seeing the purpose of everything that we're gonna throw away, because now I'm like, this one, this could work, this I can save, and reusing it.
Yeah. And I think when you're thinking about any of these materials, and Bar and I have in Materials Matter really broken down like what these carts and spaces could look like that present kids with an opportunity to explore one single material and the compatible materials along with it for a long period of time. I think alongside the like physical setting up the space, teachers and parents and caregivers have to really shift in their mindset. You can offer the recyclables with wire and yarn in a really open, flexible way, or you can offer them in a way that I think Bar was beginning to speak to around that feels rigid to the children and kind of closes the box on what is possible. And so I think that alongside the like thinking about the simplicity of the materials, really trying your hardest to set aside your expectations for what those materials can do and become and allow the children to take the lead. And that can be, that shift might happen over several months or years or an entire career, in really honoring the children's creativity in that process. And it can be really scary if you've been a teacher that is more comfortable with guided play experiences or crafts. It feels different because what the children are coming away with may not meet that vision in your mind. But really understanding the learning that is at play and the skills and habits of mind that are being developed can help those folks feel comfortable using that time in that way with children, and also being able to advocate and describe the learning that is happening during those experiences.
And coming back to rethinking, I think rethinking everything, I think that one of the things that we need to start rethinking, and I can tell you, I was there too, is control, right? Because we as teachers like to control, and if it's going to be messy or if it's going to be too much, and find resources around it. Let's say I have a big tablecloth that I put underneath the table when I know it's going to be super messy because I won't have time to clean. So I'll just crumble the tablecloth and deal with it later, or I will just put a table outside and let the mess happen. But I have given me permission to, it's fine. It's going to be messy. I'll just toss things and in the sink and we'll deal with them later. Because children, that's what children enjoy the most, having the freedom to use materials. But at the same time, because sometimes people confuse and teachers confuse that this open-endedness does not have boundaries. And there are boundaries within these creative processes because there's the space that is designated to create. There's a way in which we treat materials. We might not tell them how to use them, but we can teach them how to treat the materials, how to clean up when they're done, how to, if it's work in progress, how to put it somewhere and just clean. I always tell them, just clean up the loose parts around, either if they're building or creating, just clean up the loose parts and leave it as inviting as it was for the next person to come to find it as inviting. But there are boundaries within these creative processes because we need to. It's an environment. It's a community in the classroom and also at home that we want to respect. If you want your child to use glue at home, you might by all means designate an area where that could happen. It does not need to happen over your couch. So there needs to be like these boundaries around the spaces to make them also doable. I sometimes see like these reels and content around art cards for toddlers with the paint bottles. I'm like, if you want your child to spill the paint all over the house, by all means, add the paint. But we need to think really, what do we want and what do like Sharpie? It's a no. I know what to add into that card that will be contained in the space that I'm offering to create and that will be appropriate for the age range.
And when you feel safe and comfortable with the materials, everybody will feel more relaxed. So if you're following children around with the Sharpie or the squeezy paint, it's not going to be a very fun experience for anybody. And we really have given a lot of thought to what is very accessible. Like you were talking about paper before, we spend an entire month on just paper or just cardboard or recyclables. And that is because we know that there the majority of educators and parents can provide that for free to their children, and children can use those in abundance. They don't have to worry if they make a mistake. They can try again. It can be repurposed over and over again. So giving just some thought to that too. You don't need lots of specialty materials, and even especially for younger children who are just exploring painting, we have explored paint with just water and brushes on sidewalks. We have crushed up sidewalk chalk before and mixed that as paint. Of course, painting experiences are wonderful, but they will be still valuable if it's watercolor on a tray with a smaller piece of paper, if that's what's available, versus a big easel experience with tempera. Those are both wonderful experiences, and children can gain a lot from them, especially when they're with adults who are supporting their process.
And also know when you can do it, because like a day, let's say yesterday, I had this beautiful activity. I think it's yours, where you just put together glue and lots of cardboard recyclables. And when I saw it, I'm like, I planned for it yesterday. It's too much for me today. I don't want to deal with it. I'm not doing it because I'm not going to enjoy it. So I am not going to set it up. Maybe tomorrow I'll be more rested and I will be able to embrace this mess and I'll be fine with it. Let's say slime at home, it's a no and forever no. I cannot deal with slime. Maybe others can, but you need to know exactly, as
You
a
need to know
teacher, as a
yeah.
mom, if you're up for that messy day, if you're not, and keep the spaces that have complete access safe for you to just rest and enjoy the show, because children will be using those materials freely, and that's what they can do. And I have a 2.5-year-old, I have a almost 4-year-old, and an 8-year-old, and they have different materials each. Some of them are the same, but I do have to provide different materials based on their interests or based on what they can do. And I have a lot of them that are hidden that I take out whenever I feel like I'm ready to embrace that. So it's okay to feel that and to have those days in which you know you cannot do it. It's too much. You don't have to feel the pressure. You just need to try to let it happen at some point.
Yeah, and maybe think of it even sort of outside of an activity and more of just this access to what is safe and comfortable for everybody. So think about what if you're at home with a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, and an 8-year-old, what could be accessible for all three at all times that wouldn't cause stress or make it feel overwhelming. I'm thinking about like tape and smaller pieces of cardboard and maybe washable markers or thicker crayons or some other mark making tool and a stack of paper. Like that's enough. And that could be available at all times, and it doesn't have to feel like this thing. You'll have to refresh it, but it doesn't have to feel like this big thing to prep and set up every time.
Correct.
I mean, my older children, my age ranges and my children are all 3 years apart. So when, my oldest daughter was 10, my son was 4. And so, but they often, when I had like this little art area, my daughters especially, but even my son, when I put out materials for them to use, they would often use them to make props for their play. So they're not necessarily making art, but they are they're creating in a playful way and using the materials for play. And so that's really like how I started seeing this process art as play, what we talk about a lot, Shannon and I. But I wanted to also say that for these art cards, one way to think about stocking or putting, the materials in the cart, one way to think about it is, and Shannon and I have talked about this a lot with our latest playbook about wire, but thinking about action words, what children can do with those materials. So with the wire, they or tape or yarn or the recyclables or collaging. So you can have think about the materials in that way. How are the children going to use them? Not what they're going to make. How are they going to use this? They're going to wrap. They're going to twist. They're going to glue. They're going to cut. And so if you think about their experience that way, it actually makes the adult, and we're working on mindset here, it eventually makes it so much easier, because you're not thinking about what are they going to make. You're thinking about how are they going to use these materials, and it's exciting. And as you said, Mariana, it brings the joy back for the teacher, because we don't have to think about what they're going to make. It doesn't matter what they're going to make or how they're going to use it. And they may use those supplies in their play. They may want to make something for their mom, which happens most of the time. But I think it's just a better way to think about these experiences and how to stock your art cart or your shelves or however you're offering these experiences, is to think about these action words and how children are going to use them rather than what they're going to make.
Bar, now that you're speaking, I'm thinking about, like, in my head, I'm a very creative person, and I see it. I'm creative. I'm super artsy, but I feel like I had an experience in which, like, my grandma was an artist, my sister is an artist, but I was never exposed to art outside of school. I had a great teacher that I still remember her, but it was one extra classroom. And today I feel like if I would have been exposed to more formal art, and that's probably what I'm doing with my daughter because I see that she has the ability, I would have been a lot better at it, because, like, I have the ability. I don't know how to, let's say, draw or to do it in a different way. I'm very creative when I do my content and when I set up invitations and when I'm playing. But I feel like deep inside, I was product of the system of just
Well, it's
being
about
boxed.
confidence. It's about confidence, right?
Yes, and you know what?
Creative confidence.
I start drawing and I'm not as bad, but it's not natural. Like, my sister sees someone and she starts drawing and the person is right there in the paper. I don't know how to professionally draw. And I feel like if I could have had a little bit more instruction or a little bit more push toward that, I really like it. I really enjoy it, but it does not come natural. So of course I couldn't develop it on my own. I needed some sort of guidance, which is what I see with children nowadays, and why I think it's also so important to have all these encounters, because children will awaken passions throughout experiences. And children, through art, are developing executive functions. They're develop the ability to regulate, to calm. Nowadays, we see all these children with attention deficit, and I don't believe that it's mainly just a diagnosis. I feel like they don't have opportunities to create, to move, to let their brains also geared into activities that will also provide this calm and this self-regulation and this emotional control. And art is the perfect way to find all of these. It also allows you to plan, to organize your thoughts, to know how are you going to plan your project, to see, you might not know the end, but you are definitely planning along a track of creation along the way. So that's executive functions happening all the way there, and 21st skills, as we mentioned. And I love that you said that art is play, because I also believe art is play. Because if you think about the skills that happen through art, are all these skills that are developed through play. So yes, art is play, and art is a way that children, mostly all children, like sensory play is art too, because they're exploring materials as well. So I think that in every single classroom, all the way up to high school, it changes within age, because we start providing different materials. Like I introduced my daughter to the glue gun a couple of weeks ago, and she made this amazing house with all loose parts. And of course, it was all about the glue gun, and she was like so excited about
I
it.
saw that, Mariana, on Instagram. It was so cool.
And I was impressed myself, because I just gave her an egg carton and tossed in some loose parts, and she did such an amazing creation. And all I could think of when she showed me that, because she was working by herself in the garage, I was not even close, when she came back and she's like, Mama, look what I made. And she started, like, she could not stop. She worked for 3 days. And all I could think of is, this is happening because this girl has been exposed to creativity, to open-ended play, to divergent thinking, to problem solving since she started school. So this is like my way of seeing that all those things that I've been cultivating over time really matter, because she's finding herself in a place of creativity and expressing what she likes and what she can do. So I think that we need more of these in every single child, every single student, every single teenager. There's a way to express art. And sadly, people who are very talented in art are often told that they're not good enough, that they should choose something else because they're going to starve to death, because they won't make enough income. And that talk and has to change, because we can become successful in anything that we do if we use our creativity.
Yeah, so much to respond to. And I think reminder too, that if you have a 9-year-old or a teacher of 9-year-olds who have not had those same opportunities, that the practice of doing this now, it's not too late.
No, it's never too late.
No. And I think even as grown-ups too, to really rethink what we mean when we are talking about these skills. Not everybody who enjoys the process and experience of art making is going to become a professional artist. And that's a good thing, because really we can lend those skills to so many areas of our lives. And I think that the problem solving and the risk taking and the expression that we're practicing when we're engaged in these kinds of open-ended experiences are transferable to so many other areas. And I think too, if we're thinking about rethinking education for folks who are instructing in art, to experience what it's like to kind of shift from the director of the experience to the observer of the experience and see what's possible. Because I think that when we try to teach techniques and sort of like impose any kind of value judgment on a child's art making, it has a profound effect on their confidence, and it can really push children away from feeling engaged in that experience. When I first began teaching, even though I had really focused my studies on Reggio Emilia, I went to work in a charter school, and there were a lot of expectations about what should be on the walls and what the art should look like, and meeting state standards and making sure that my lesson plans aligned with these standards. And I have, and this was 16 years ago, had this experience where I was trying to direct the children to draw something like me, and I was doing it in a fun and playful way. And I wasn't the dictator of the art room, but I was instructing them to make marks the way that I was making marks, and to draw this thing the way that I was drawing it. And I remember, I'd say like 99% of the kids engaged, and one child in the back who was silently crying, like a second grader, And I realized in that moment that that child was seeing me instruct in this way and feeling so bad about themselves for not being able to do it the way that I was doing it. And at that point, I realized like I would never again be able to teach in that way, because it just, it, I knew that that second grader would remember that forever and would not consider themselves an artist or creative, or that can have a real impact. And I think when I see like very directed craft experiences or even art projects that are really guided by an adult and encouraging children to mimic what that person is modeling, I think that can have a really negative effect
Mhm.
on children's self-esteem and just feeling like an artist. And I think a lot of us grown-ups, there are, lots of us in the world who see ourselves as creative, and we're told, our whole lives that was our special talent. But the truth is that really every child has the potential to have that creativity and to have it forever. But these are the kinds of experiences that we need to be providing in order to make that possible.
And I think, Shannon, that it's very important to release ourselves from guilt, because I was also that teacher that had that bulletin board with all the apples and outlines and everything picture perfect, and all the kids drew the same thing, and all up they went. Because you know what? When we went to school to become professionals, that's the image that we had in our head, that was meant to be by a teacher. That's how an art teacher looks like. This is how preschool teacher looks like. This is what a first grade teacher looks like. And in all this process of rethinking education, I always tell people around me, just the hardest thing is to unlearn our experiences. That's the hardest. And I invite all of you who are watching, who will be watching later, to rethink again and think, why am I doing this? Number one, is it worth it? Am I teaching something? And if you am I teaching something relevant to that child? And if you have a great answer, by all means, keep doing it. But if you cannot find an answer, find a new way to develop all these skills in children, because we have our personal experiences. We grew up in a different moment of life. We went to college and grad school at a different moment in life, and following patterns is easy. It is easy. Unlearning and really putting into application all the knowledge that we have to do what is right, that is the real art. Because that's when we all know about child development. We all know what's right for children. It's about just to respect what we know, to own it, and to make things right for children.
Well, I think that what Shannon has said in the past and what we have, written a lot about recently is that you can't teach creativity. And
Mhm.
so if you take yourself out of the equation, you're actually doing children a favor. Just this is not about you. This is about the children's experience with the materials and their imagine and how they can tap into their imagination and building that creative confidence. And what I'll say to you, Mariana, is I'm sorry that you feel like you can't draw, but drawing isn't everything. And who's to say what is good and bad about art?
Mhm.
There's my favorite drawings are from 4-year-olds. And so, if you drew like a 4-year-old, it would be beautiful to me. So it doesn't really matter about how well you can draw. You have obviously taken a passion of yours and used that creativity for good and in your life. And so, you know, offering children materials and giving them the time and the space to tap into that imagination and innovate and iterate and problem solve. As Shannon said, this isn't about them becoming artists necessarily. Maybe a small amount of them will, but it's about taking that with you in every job that you're going to do. And also just it gives you confidence in that you can do anything. You can any problem. A lot of art is problem solving, so you just have that confidence. And that's why it's so important to you know that mindset piece is so important. And I wish that every school would, a higher education school would teach that to the incoming teachers, that to not cut out the apples and and trace and prep these pieces that children will put together, because that's not, I mean, maybe they're learning how to do a step by step, but they're learning that all day long anyway. Yeah, so you can't teach creativity. I think that's a really important thing,
No,
to important mindset.
but you can promote creativity.
Right.
That's our job as parents, as educators, as art teachers, as adults. We promote creativity in every single thing that you do. Like when I'm creating, let's say, my reels, I really love creating my reels because for me that's creativity. How am I going to show this idea? How am I going to do it? Like I found like passion about doing my reels, something that I was not even thinking that would happen in my life, because it's a way of expression and of showcasing things that are passionate for me. So I think that we all have creativity in different angles, but I definitely think that creativity should be promoted to a really high extent, not only through art, but through play, through open-ended play, through writing, through math, in every single thing that we do in the learning process. Creativity is embedded, and we need creativity to thrive in life overall, and to be successful in anything that we do. I would love to end by talking a little bit about the creativity project. I know that I talked about it at the beginning, but let me see if I can. I am going to see if I can, let me see, share my screen, because I would love people to see your website. And this, by all means, this is, I always say I will always share and scream out loud the good things. And what you do is outstanding. The membership, because you don't only have the membership, you also have the guides, and I'm going to show them in a little bit. But the membership is so simple. So they choose a topic per month, and you subscribe to their membership, and every month you get an email that I await for every single month with gold. They have materials suggested under the topic. I have not seen this month's PDF, but I know it's wire, and they've done loose parts, and they've done cardboard and collage, and they share not only invitations to explore these materials, but links to amazing materials that I've like discovered myself, stories around the material itself. So I really appreciate the content that I am getting, and I think it's worth every cent that I am paying, because it's good teaching. This is 21st century education right there, that it's not necessarily only for art teachers. I know that you have a huge community of art teachers, but I think that every single teacher, elementary, preschool, kindergarten, should be using your content to provide and to promote art within the classroom. It's super simple and super easy to follow. So let me see if I can share my screen here.
And while you're doing that, Mariana, I'll just say that in each of the playbooks that you're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
the stories and the images are all coming from really diverse settings. They're coming from preschool spaces, they're coming from public elementary classrooms, they're coming from large group events that Bar is hosting at the library. And so really the membership, this course, Materials Matter, is for all sorts of educators and caregivers who work with children and want to become more confident in using and offering those open-ended materials that you were talking about as a way to promote creativity and agency, and a sense of belonging in the classroom or in any learning setting. So we try to provide as many stories and examples as we can from really different settings so that all educators and families can really see themselves in these experiences.
And if you go here, so this is Materials Matter, which is the membership. So you get a PDF that I just like. It's fascinating what you've added to your PDF. So this is how much it costs per. Is it per year? It is per
Yeah,
year, right?
it's so you'll if you sign up for this course, that's the fee, and you'll
Mm-hmm.
have lifetime access to the 12 playbooks that you, like you said, come in PDF form, as well as 12 instructional videos that are an intense labor of love, mostly on Bar's part, to really introduce these materials in a really inspiring way to folks who may not have even played with them before, and
Mm-hmm.
then show what they look like when children are working with them. And as we're preparing all of these, these playbooks and videos, we are kind of placing a little bet every time we do it that that children will respond in really intriguing ways and help shape how we teach adults about using those materials. So we're learning so much as we're creating this too, and we're really responding to the interests and ideas of the children that we are working with and that our partner educators are working with every day to show what is possible in all of these spaces.
And I want to say on my end, Shannon, because I've always had this saying that you don't have to invent or create some things that are already done. So I bought your content and I use it for my art spaces and my art activities and Wonder Station because I know that it is so great that I don't have to find anymore because it is working, it is new, it aligns to all the materials that I have, so it is easy. I actually something that I saw I think it was one of the first I don't remember in which one, where there was a hamper from IKEA for, was it cardboard? Yes, I think it was cardboard.
Probably.
That it was an idea that I saw. I'm like, I need a trash closet. So I just created, I have like these shelves and I'm like organizing buckets. So I have like egg cartons. I have all the things that I save and I have these reusable materials organized and I feel so like it's sparks joy. And it's so easy to use. Now I feel like even more creative because I can just throw things. And that's I mean I have a garage, I have a very small space, so I made it work. And that's what I love about what you share, because you share like similar contexts. And as I was researching your website yesterday, aside from the membership, you have, this is what I first, when I first found you, that's what you were doing, because I think I found you very early in your account because I bought those books probably like 3 years ago. So I think that I did find you when you were starting. So these were the guides that you were saying, right? The beginning.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, we
And
have like 36 of them from 3 seasons. But I also wanted to say that with our Materials Matter course, Shannon and I talk about the materials that we're going to work on for the next month. And then often we just present these materials to the children to see what they are going to do with it. And we take those photos and use them in our guide. So they're really, really authentic. They're not,
Mhm.
they're often, they have much better ideas than we do. So it's really inspiring, these guides. And also the videos have a lot of video from classrooms and children working with the materials. So it's just, it lets you see the possibilities with these often very simple materials that you might even just have already.
I can tell you from the design to the editing, I know it takes a lot of your time and it's worth sharing. I think that the price is also super accessible, and I am thankful that it actually, because that's what I do also with my content. If people buy it, they keep it for life, because we like to keep things that we buy. And I will continue to buy all your things because I think they're worth it. They inspire me. They are easy to follow. They're beautiful. They're handsome. They're real. That's another word. They are real. They're authentic. What you see are things that children can really make, and they're simple. Again, simple, nothing complicated. The things that you need to have are a few. Of course, you have a list of beautiful things that you add, because who doesn't like to get new things and to get fun stuff? My wish list has grown since I subscribed to you, but it's beautiful. And I also saw that you have these teacher bundles, which were super cool. Super cool. And the camp ones here.
Yeah, the camp ones would be great to check into now, especially for folks who are starting to plan for summer. These are centered around kind of big ideas and themes, but they still leave a lot of room for interpretation and for children to, really get excited about these big concepts. And I haven't looked at one of our camp guides in a while, but they do really focus on art and play and creating things that can be incorporated into the play experience.
I think it's geared also much more towards like a multi-age, and there are some things for tweens. So every day it's kind of split up into 5 days and a week long camp, and you can use that, you know, you can spread that out even longer, because each day we have mindfulness and we have a book list and we have something for toddlers and we have something for, elementary school age. We have something for tweens that's a little bit more crafty. And so there's a lot of flexibility in these guys. We put a lot of thought into them, and we made them, more in the beginning when everybody was home with their kids, but we have added to them as well. And they're really, really fun, and it's very, very affordable to get, a whole
Yes.
curriculum for, I can't even see what it is, $20.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's a whole curriculum. I mean, it's very, very affordable, and we also have the bundles there too.
Yeah. I truly think that what you've done is amazing. You're really contributing to education overall, providing, and I think this material is not only geared towards teachers, because I think that parents also love doing and having these things at home, and it's super easy to follow. I will add your books into, I'm going to send an email out to everyone who subscribed to this event with all the links that I shared, and with your books and maybe some hidden treasures in there. But also your books, I could keep talking. I mean, I'm a huge fan. Your books are amazing. I really love that my daughter Elena has been using them and following them since she's, no, I bought them in 2020 because she was 5, and she would grab the book and follow along and create what she saw in the book, which is great, because that's exactly why I got them. It's not only geared towards adults, children who enjoy doing art at home. That's a great way of promoting it. We've done all the activities in each book. So
Right.
I really thank you so much for your time, for what you do. I believe that people like you are brave enough to speak up for good practices, and that's what we need for education to change. Everything that you do is outstanding, and I will continue to cheer for you. I really admire you, and I always like telling people these things because I think that's also we need to do what we preach for. And this is what I teach. I teach abundance, I teach collaboration, I teach admiration, and I admire you both. You are my inspiration. Thank you so
You.
much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much. This has been
That's,
such a pleasure.
yeah, it really has. Thank you. It's been so nice to talk to you, Mariana. And we feel the same way about you.
Thank you. Thank you. And well, we'll keep in touch. And thank you, everyone who was here and who will happen to see this later on. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.